So let's talk about Alien Romulus. This movie is finally here, probably my most anticipated film of the entire year. The more and more I heard about it with the behind the scenes and the production and using practical effects and Fede Alvarez in the director's chair, the more and more I heard about it, the more excited I got. On top of the fact that Alien, just as a franchise, is one of my favorite pieces of film and cinema franchises to ever exist. I made a 5-hour long documentary video on Alien I released on the channel last year, so I was super hyped. And when I was making that video, there was no information on this movie. There was no production photos, there was no trailers, there were no official posters, there was nothing. So I wanted to be able to say more about this movie in that video, I just never got a chance to. But the more that came out about it, the more excited I got. As well as Fede Alvarez as a director is a guy that I really like. He won me over 10 years ago when the Evil Dead remake came out, because that is a movie, because the original Evil Dead is my favorite horror film of all time. That's a movie I should just inherently, I'm primed to hate. And I walked into Evil Dead 2013 and I was ready to hate it. And by the time I walked out, I just had to admit to the world that that was a kick-ass horror movie and I loved it. Not as good as the original, but still pretty damn good. I'm going to approach this video a little bit differently than I do my other movie reviews, where normally about halfway through the review video, I put up a spoiler warning and I talk about spoilers from that point on. But I kind of feel if I did that in this scenario, the video would be far too long. And most of the things I want to say about the movie involve spoilers, so the review section itself would be very short. So I'm going to double dip on Alien Romulus, which is something I don't normally like to do on YouTube, but I feel like I have so much to say when it comes to spoilers that I feel like that deserves its own video. So this is going to be the spoiler-free review of Alien Romulus, and then probably immediately after this or the next day, I'm going to upload my full spoiler talk. So this video is spoiler-free, so you're safe here. I'm just going to talk about the film in the most general way that I can. The general premise that I can give you without giving away spoilers, because I don't even think the plot line was talked about in the trailers that much, but our main character, Kaylee Spenny, plays a character named Rain, and her android friend named Andy. They are stuck and kind of at the mercy of the company that they work for, but there is a potential for escape. All they have to do is go and get something from this spacecraft that is orbiting above them. Super easy mission. All they got to do is go up there and get something. Nothing can go wrong. Everything goes wrong. Positives for this movie are going to be, number one, the fact that it is very horror-centric. Fede Alvarez definitely brings that atmosphere. He brings that style that he had with the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe. Actually, this movie feels a little bit more like Don't Breathe than it does the Evil Dead movie, just in the general premise of like going into a place that you're not really familiar with. You think that you have this one agenda and then something else happens entirely. But I will say that if you are a fan of the video game Alien Isolation, no doubt 100% Fede Alvarez took inspiration from that game, and I loved it. I actually played that for the first time last year. I know I'm like super late on that. I'm sorry. I didn't play video games for like 8 years of my life. Cut me some slack. But I went back and I played it. I loved it to death. Maybe he should have just adapted that into a movie. I don't know. But there are so many references and nods, and just the feeling and tone of that game is on full display in this movie. There are like weapons and items that are used. There's the little like the ventilation shafts with like the circular opening. There's just shots that are just full of darkness, looking down a hallway where you're kind of hearing the sounds of the ship around you. You're hearing the metal clink. You're hearing the sounds of like asteroids outside the spaceship. You're hearing maybe snarling or dripping of an alien creature. You are getting just the full atmosphere. And I could say one of the main positives, besides the horror aspect, is the production design and how this film looks and feels, because it very much just immerses you into that feeling of being stuck on a spaceship, and you have to go down all these dark corridors and you don't know what could be lurking behind any corner. There's like fog. I love fog. More fog in movies. That's what I miss about old school horror films. They always had lots of fog. Nobody uses fog anymore. There's I guess it's mist. I don't know. There's condensation. I like it. So yeah, production design is absolutely fantastic, as well as you get multiple sequences and set pieces in this movie, because there was a lot of practical effects that were used, which I thank Fede Alvarez so much. Just thank you for not just doing like pure CGI aliens and xenomorphs and stuff like that. There's actually animatronics used, there's suits used, there's puppetry, And you get multiple sequences of that in a variety of different ways. There are at least 2 sequences with just the face huggers themselves, making the face huggers feel absolutely terrifying, because they should be. They're super fast, small little creatures that grab onto your face and rape your face until you give birth to the fucking hell spawn, which is the xenomorph. It should be scary, and it feels scary in the movie. So I appreciate that. I also really like how he filmed the xenomorphs in this movie, because they're not on display as much as you would think, but they're used very, very well. It's very, very similar to Aliens, how they utilize the xenomorphs. You know how, if you watch that movie, the xenomorphs themselves don't have a ton of screen time, but they're utilized very, very well. In this movie, it's kind of the same thing, where you do see them. Like, there's plenty of xenomorph action to behold, but a lot of it is also kind of seeing them, you know, in the shadows or crawling up on the walls and stuff. You know, they're like hidden within the atmosphere of the walls. So you see them, but you don't see them at the same time. Same thing with like the original Alien, where, you know, the alien is kind of like hiding in the chains and the hooks that are swinging across the top of the ship. It's kind of filmed like that. There's shots that you see of the alien close up plenty of times, but a lot of the times when you see the full creature in its full glory, it's kind of immersed within that shadow, within the corridors of the ship, within moments where it's going to jump out at you at any moment, or it's like lurking above. So I appreciated the creativity with that, and actually being a little bit restrained with the amount of times that the alien was, you know, clear as day on screen, because I think it does make it a little bit scarier when it can pop out at any possible moment and you're not sure when it's going to happen. But don't let that comment make you think that you don't see the xenomorphs in the movie, because you absolutely do. You get plenty of great shots with the xenomorphs close up, so I think it's a good blend. And one thing I really do appreciate about the movie, again, I can't really talk about because it'll get into spoilers, but it does respect what's come before it, but also at the same time, some people might be turned off by that, because there are a lot of repeats of ideas that have been commonplace within other Alien films or within the franchise in general. And some people might see this movie as a little bit more of like an Alien greatest hits. It does follow the same structure as a lot of the beats of the original Alien, and a little bit of Aliens, but mostly the original. And you can tell, like, even as it's getting towards the end, as it reaches its climax, you can kind of tell a little bit of what's going to happen. But then. So there are moments where it kind of is like an Alien paint by numbers sort of thing, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because like, we love this shit, right? So if you're an Alien fan, this is stuff that you're going to want to see, that you enjoy seeing, that you love about the franchise, and it's going to give you that. It's going to deliver on what you want to see from an Alien film, as opposed of just going off and doing its own idea, you know. But that might also turn people off, because I think a lot of people also like the variety of the Alien films. Like I said, like, I'm a huge Prometheus fan. I don't care. I will defend Prometheus to my last breath. I don't care what anyone says. But because of that, many may say that this movie doesn't offer a ton that's new. And for the majority of the film, that's fair to say. However, it does actually answer some questions that have been lingering for many, many years. And without spoiling anything, I will say that the final act, the last 10-15 minutes, I was not expecting it to go into that direction, and I loved it for that. I was like, fucking thank you. Because if they had just done something else, I would have been like, okay, yeah, good movie. But what they did at the end, it definitely raised my love and enjoyment for this film. I was can't spoil it, but like, it's good. It's good. It's probably not going to be good for some people. Some people will be like, what the fuck? Why'd they do that? But for me, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. I was so about it. And I think it works so good. But my negatives for the movie mostly have to do with, unfortunately, the characters. Now, I will say that Kaylee Spaney, that plays Rain, and David Johnson, that plays Andy, the synthetic, the android of the movie, I think he actually has the best arc, if you can call it that. He gets a lot more complex than you think he's going to, which was a pleasant surprise, and I really, really enjoyed his character arc, and their dynamic together was very, very well done. But those were the two main characters that, they are the two main characters of the movie, but they're the ones that you feel emotionally invested in. Unfortunately for me, every other character felt completely disposable, and I didn't give a single shit about any of them. They try to build up their dynamics a little bit, like, some of them are siblings, and some of them know each other from the past, and some of them yada, 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 but mostly these characters were just not it. I would say even in the original Alien, I liked everybody in that crew. They all felt like they've been working together for a long time. They all feel like even though they're coworkers, they still care about each other. And then you go into Aliens, of course, builds up a great dynamic with Newt and everybody, Bishop, all those characters are great. And I like a lot of the crew from Prometheus and in Alien Covenant too. But in this movie, the crew that we have here, and it's a makeshift crew, like they're all going up just because they have a similar goal, a similar intention. They're not like part of a team, originally. But I feel like the movie fails to kind of get you into any kind of camaraderie with these characters, and I feel like it fails to get you to give a shit about any of them. And at that point, they just become body count, which is fine, but the body count would be scarier. And the scares would work better if I really cared about these characters. Now, I'm not saying that Fede Alvarez didn't attempt to make you care about these characters, but it just doesn't work. The only two that I cared about are Rain and Andy, and everybody else just falls flat. And for me, that takes a ton of tension out of the scares and out of the kill scenes, because I don't really care if any of these characters live or die. And I'm a big character person when it comes to movies and when it comes to just media in general that I consume. Like, even if they're only going to be here to die, I want to care about them at least a little bit. But I just absolutely did. That doesn't mean that the death scenes weren't fun and cool to see. I mean, I'm a slasher fan, and like slasher movie characters usually suck, right? So like in that aspect, if I'm treating the movie like a slasher film, oh yeah, I enjoyed the kill scenes. Yeah, they were great. I was just a little bit let down by the fact that I didn't care about this group of characters, and I really wanted to, I wanted to invest in them more than I did, but I just couldn't. But I honestly think that was my biggest gripe. And other than that, I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I guess maybe the only other thing is that it does kind of feel like a side story, because taking place in between Alien and Aliens, it's not really like consequential to Ripley's story. Obviously it can't be, because we've already seen those movies, right? But I think there is enough information in this movie that I'll get into in the spoiler review where, things do kind of come together just in the lore of the universe, or in the lore of this world, that's been created, I think. If there were any themes to this movie, and some people are going to say there's not any because, that's just like an Alien greatest hit sort of thing, I would disagree. I think there are some themes here about, once again, corporations really not giving a shit about the people that work for them. The ends justify the means, which is a similar theme that was in the original Alien, where they were, Ash was willing to sacrifice the entire crew in order to get the specimen, to get the alien kind of back, to the company, to Weyland-Yutani to utilize it. Same thing in Aliens, where Burke was just screwing over everybody to kind of get the alien. So it does fall in line with that sort of theme and that sort of idea that Weyland-Yutani, definitely want their agenda to be top priority no matter what, and screw anybody that gets, hurt or killed or maimed in the process. And just that idea of like, the main characters are also like lower income, and they're working hard, they're struggling and stuff. So there are themes in here about just how difficult that struggle is and how much there is to overcome, when ultimately what they're doing it for, can replace them or doesn't care about them, or even if they died, no one's going to bat an eye. They are just fodder. They're just a cog in the machine, disposable soldiers, that sort of thing. So I do think that is a present theme kind of going throughout the entire movie. And I think my absolute favorite thing was the final 10 minutes, but I can't talk about that. So I'll leave it there. I'll say that I very, very much enjoyed the movie. There were a few things that let me down about it, mostly with the characters themselves. But if you're going for, alien set pieces, the horror elements, the look, the vibe, the aesthetic of the movie, and also to get some good surprises along the way, I think it's definitely worth it. If you're an Alien fan, I do think it's a must-see. I don't know where I would rank it quite yet. I'm going to do an updated Alien films ranking list, once I kind of process my entire thoughts. But I think as of right now, I would give it like a solid 8 out of 10. That's where I'd put it. So not a masterpiece, but very, very good. So let me know what you guys think about Alien Romulus down below in the comments. And like I said, I will do a companion video to this video talking about all things spoilers. And of course, in that one, make sure that you've seen the movie first before you watch it. But if you just want to share your general comments, let me know what you think about it down below. Thanks as always for watching this video, guys. Give it a thumbs up and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, go ahead and sign up to the Patreon or channel memberships. I'd appreciate it if you did so. And if not, just thanks for watching in general. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.